I'm going to get to the telephones in just a moment, but before I do, I just want to mention our friend Dr. Eric F. Jones, who has an office not too far away from our studio. Two offices, actually, in Twin Falls. He uses a holistic, systemic approach to wellness, and he's been doing this for nearly a quarter century with master's and doctoral degrees in marriage and family therapy. Dr. Jones believes that if we went back and tried more traditional approaches to our health, we might be able to wean ourselves away from many of the pharmaceuticals we currently use. He uses methods of alternative healing such as naturopathy, medicinal herbs, nutrition, sound waves, intellectual and cognitive self regulation, and napathy. He's helped remedy and manage mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual challenges. And Dr. Jones is accepting new patients and has evening and Saturday appointments available. The telephone number is 731-7178. And he's on Facebook as well, Dr. Eric F. Jones. That is Eric F. Jones, PhD, mental health and wellness therapist. That's Eric with a C. Caller, you're up next. You're on the air on KLIX at 934. Go ahead.
Bill, since the media ignored the horrible deaths of the two elderly nuns who helped the sick poor people in Mississippi, I hope that the Pope and the Catholic cardinals will memorialize them. Nuns' lives matter.
You'd like to think so, but my guess is that the Roman Catholic Church, if it would harm donations from George Soros, would probably. Oh, you haven't heard about that, have you? Well, we should get to that one of these days. George Soros was trying to buy them off to convince them that they should start arguing and lobbying, joining him for lobbying on environmental issues, that is global warming, and to shut down all of the big smokestacks in the industrialized world, and then to go out and ask them to help him lobby. And he was passing money around to do this, help him lobby as well about the need to increase food stamp usage and other government programs and the like. Now, if you think about it, if you shut down all the manufacturing all over the world to appease these people, then we won't be able to afford all of those programs they were told to lobby for. There's a story in the Daily Signal today about a boy in Michigan. He's 18. He was born with a brain disease so rare, only 18 other people are known to have it worldwide. Cost him $1,800 for his medicine every month to prevent a seizure. He was never expected to live into his teens. It was thought he would die by the age of 2. He was getting payments from the state. They were actually, and I have a story on it here, Medicaid payments from the state to help his family cover the costs. Well, guess what? Finally, the state said no more. He's 18 years old. His folks are now going out and spending $1,800 a month that they don't have on the medicine. They went to the state and demanded to know what happened, and the state said we had to cut the budget for Medicaid because, as it turns out, we were sending Medicaid payments to dead people, and we ended up busting the budget. Now, that's in the Democrat-controlled state of Illinois, where the dead vote, but they were also getting Medicaid payments. And now this kid is 18 years old. His family's run out of money. He's likely going to die. That's what happens when I'm sorry, but you're mean-spirited. Well, these Democrats just screwed this up royally now, didn't they? You're up next. You're on the air with Bill Colley on KLIX. Go ahead.
You seem to generalize drug addicts as Republicans, or that's delusional. And also
Tell me why it's delusional.
Wait, allow me to say. Also, that you want to go back to the values of the cleavers and stuff. That's long gone, dude. The world is becoming closer and closer and closer with the internet. Communication.
Really? Why do we have all these big militaries then, and the Chinese trying to build a wall around the Pacific? Hello?
Well, I've seen you.
Why do we have terrorists blowing up buildings?
We would need walls and.
I'll put it this way: we're not very close, and we're not going to be. So I don't see this closer stuff happening.
Oh, okay.
Now, when you said at the very beginning, where's your evidence?
Of what?
What were you talking about at the very beginning of your call? Republicans. I said Democrats use more drugs than Republicans.
Are Democrats?
I said most of you people who use drugs are Democrats. Sure.
I mean, how ignorant can that be?
You know what? Most of your dope dealers on the streets of Compton down in Los Angeles are not voting Republican.
Yeah, and that's one place you will walk at 10 o'clock at night. Neither did I.
I'm sure you do all the time.
Huh?
Well, I know when you need a purchase, you're probably there. Very clever, aren't you? Thank you much for the telephone call, sir. 736-0300. 73. Seriously, yes, there are probably some Republicans out there who deal dope and some of them who probably use it. But overwhelmingly, I would guess, and if you look at your prisons, most of your dope dealers in prisons, why do you think Terry McAuliffe, the governor of Virginia, wants to allow convicted felons to vote in his state? Because he knows they're Democrats. Republicans aren't sitting around in Virginia's jails on convictions for dope dealing or using illegal drugs. And if you can extrapolate, that's a pretty good sized state in this country. If you can extrapolate, there's a reason that they want felons to vote. Because they'll vote for his girl, Hillary. Maybe she can promise free dope for everyone, along with free college and free medicine and free automobiles, free food, and that poor kid in Michigan or Illinois, was it? Yeah, Illinois, wondering why he can't end up getting the medicine he needs. Why? Because Democrats were giving away the money to dead people. That's what we need more of, folks. We need more Democrat control in this country. 20 minutes away from 10 o'clock. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and NewsRadio1310.com at 68. So a caller tells us that the world is getting to be a closer place, and I jotted down a few things during the break. Take a listen and tell me if you recognize these, and tell me if these are significant, if these are telling us the world is coming closer together. Darfur. How about this one? Brexit. Ever hear of Yugoslavia? Well, not any longer. Same thing with Czechoslovakia. How about Lebanon? How about Silesia, Rwanda, Eritrea, Quebec, Ukraine? Hello? The world is coming closer together? Where? The fact is, the world is beginning to spin off into all of these little component parts. Basque separatists, some of them ended up getting hounded out of their country and they now live here in Idaho. These are all people who ended up having to find new lives for themselves. The world is not coming closer together. If anything, the world is breaking up and going off in different directions. 944. We have a caller with us. You're on the air with Bill Colley on KLIX. Thank you, though. 736-0300. 736-0300. You've got people who are flocking to northern Idaho in something called the American Redoubt. And they're actually saying, well, when they fill that up, they'll be filling up parts of Montana, southern Idaho, eastern Washington, and eastern Oregon. And they want to be separate from the rest of us. You've got a big secession movement starting to grow in Texas. Hello? You've got a secession movement actually going on in Mexico, in the southern part of that country. It's been smoldering there now for the last few decades. And yet people claim we're coming closer together. Where? When? You've got people who are going out in the streets and they're throwing punches at each other, and black people shooting white cops and even black cops, claiming that they're mean-spirited and this is the way they're going to get even. That's not coming closer together. You got a white guy going into a church in South Carolina and gunning down 9 people as they sing gospel songs. That's not coming together. You're up next. You're on the air on KLIX. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm not the first one to point this out, but Kaepernick, better hope and pray the coach doesn't put him in and keeps him on the bench, because he's going to be facing a lot of Patriots who are expert in unnecessary roughness.
Oh, I'll tell you. And, and there you go again. Speaking of a lack of coming together, he's going to be doing this. He's going to be sitting at the national anthem on military night, and of all places, San Diego, where you have a huge presence of the U.S. Navy. Thank you much for the call. That shows you again. We're not coming together. That jerk is trying to salvage his football career. I'm surprised the Niners haven't cut him yet because of his lack of talent, but it'll happen after this weekend. You're up next. You're on the air on KLIX. Go ahead.
Good morning, Bill. I think you're spot on. In any of these topics, this guy just mentioned that Kaepernick knothead. Why is everybody so upset about that, and they're not upset about actual, big bad things being done, like by Hillary or Obama or whoever? Anyway, all I wanted to say was, we could have a one world order, we could have a one world government. The problem is, though, when that gets corrupt or that is ran by evil people, then everybody suffers from it. And I think that is why what you were mentioning, Brexit and all these other things, all these countries changing, the borders changing, this, that, and the other. People, do not want to be treated bad. They don't want corruption, and on and on. If I walk up to you on the street and meet you and, smile, say, hey, how you doing? Or shake your hand, have a good day. And that, that is the way people are supposed to interact with each other. When evil things happen, when, if I were to walk up in the street and see you and want to take a baseball bat or other kind of weapon to you, you would not want that. You would much rather have the first example. And, I would too. So it really doesn't matter what is going on in the world or anything else or what you want to call us. Everybody wants to be treated fairly, equally, and appreciated for what they are, and feel safe. When things start to turn evil and you have to worry about somebody walking up behind you and doing something bad, well, that's not the way it's supposed to be.
Well said. And thank you for the call. I was thinking as he was talking about all of the situations in this country that are just completely getting out of hand, and people are spinning off into all of these different ethnic groups, and they're no longer just Americans. Everyone's got to be hyphenated. Everybody's got to be a victim. Everybody has to claim they need more of this and more of that. We don't have it to give any longer. No one wants to just go out and take care of themselves and try to get along with people. I had mentioned to Keith Thompson when he was here from Idaho State Police earlier that story out of North Dakota. These protesters are chaining themselves to these pipelines because they claim that the energy industry is going to harm Mother Earth. And the cops came out to check things out, and they just started screaming at the cops, all sorts of foul language. But then some of these people had been chained up there so long they didn't have an opportunity to eat or drink. So a police officer went over and he actually literally gave some guy a bottle of water, held it while the guy drank it, and then fed him too. Now that's coming together, but the protesters, as soon as that was done, once they got their meal and their water, they went right back to abusing the cops. I'm just sick of these people. You're up next. You're on the air with Bill Colley on KLIX.
Yeah, it would be nice. Lots of people want to be treated properly. A majority of us. I'm going to behave, you behave, and we'll all have a nice, civil society. But more and more, there's people that think that you and I need to be told what to do, how much water to use, how to raise our kids, how high to turn our thermostat, whatever. Literally every part of our lives. And these elitists, whatever they are, or they go along with the elitists. And you get to the point, and now it's just confrontation in the street, like you say. And it's just, you say to yourself, will it get better? Are we going to be able to save the republic here? Is it going to work, or is the ruling elite, George Soros, they're just going to break our back because of whatever the reason, willful ignorance, whatever. The uncertainty makes me anxious every day, and I'm sick of feeling like this. But you see, you want to say someday we're going to win, and it's going to be over with, like World War II, the Revolutionary War. This is never going to end. Evil will never quit beating the hell out of us. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you. People are dealing with, we have all of these great modern gadgets, but people seem to be more frustrated in life because so much simply doesn't work, whether it be bureaucracy or promises made by government. It's not working, and that's the frustration people have with all of this in modern life. And I'll give you an example. 3 weeks ago, I got up one day and I turned on the TV and I didn't have TV, and I got an error message from DirecTV. So I called DirecTV to say, what's wrong with this when I got home that afternoon? And they said, oh, we'll have to send a tech over. And first of all, they were very condescending, though, on the telephone. And finally, I said to the woman, I said, do you think I called and then spent half an hour on hold to pull your leg and pranking you and claiming that I've got a problem here? I just sat here for half an hour waiting for you. And she got angry with me and she decided to hang up. So I had to go through the process a second time. That's fairly frustrating. And then they sent out a technician to look things over, and he said, well, here's what I think the problem is. But of course, I'm just a monitor, like the commercial. I'm just a monitor. I can't actually do anything. because I actually work through a subcontractor. I've got my installation through a subcontractor. You need to call the subcontractor. So I left a message for the subcontractor. 2 hours later, the subcontractor calls back. As I'm trying to describe the problem, the TV set, after being off for 3 days, finally comes back on. I said, never mind. And I got rid of him and watched a little TV, had my dinner, and I went to bed. 3 weeks now, everything's been fine. I got up this morning. As I'm getting ready for work, I wanted to see some news headlines. I turned on the television set. There's that error message again. Cabling problem, connection problem. You better call DirecTV. What are you talking about? The wind wasn't blowing last night. It couldn't have blown the cable out. I don't think people are going out there and yanking them out. Why doesn't it work as promised? That's one area. I could sit here and I could list dozens, and I think you all feel the same way. Why is it when you are promised a product tells you, well, it's going to do this, this, and this, and then it doesn't do it? And you can't get any response, or you get half response, or they talk down to you and treat you like you're an idiot in these situations. You call up the bureaucrats, a government office, and they give you the runaround. I've had them literally say, well, this must be your problem. I remember one time I was getting we've gone to a lot of these places to try to cut down on cost, from individual postal boxes to group postal boxes. And I had a box in this array that I got set up when I moved into a new place. I moved into a new house at the end of a dead-end road way back in 2007. And they came by and they changed the locks and they put me in what was the appropriate box for my house. But it turns out the neighbors had that box at one time, and even though they'd moved into the house next door, they wanted to maintain the box. When they got home, they found that their old box didn't work any longer. So they called the post office and said, I changed the lock on my box. So the Postal Service came out without telling me and changed the lock again and gave them that box back. I came home the second night, wanted to pick up my mail, and then I couldn't open the dang box. So I called the Postal Service, and I got the postmaster himself on the air or on the telephone in my little town. And I was trying to explain to him, no. And he kept talking to me like I was an idiot. No, that box belongs to them. And I explained all of this, and finally, after it took over a week to straighten this out before they finally decided to give me a different box so the ladies next door could continue to hold their box. And I literally went into the post office to talk to him, and he said, well, as it turns out, and he starts telling me everything I had told him on the telephone in the very beginning. And if he had just listened to me, he would have been able to straighten it out. And that fat cat is going to walk away with a huge retirement as postmaster. And it doesn't keep, I'm telling you, you're dealing with people out there. They have that narrow tunnel vision. We're not coming together. Everybody is out for themselves now. 9:55. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. We got a couple of minutes before we wrap up the program today. And, of course, do want to tell you tomorrow morning, we are here between 8 and 10 o'clock, of course, as we are most Friday mornings. Just about all of them, I guess, to be honest with you. We're going to talk a little bit about firearms tomorrow morning, as we usually do, between 9 and 9:30 during the course of the show. A new feature that we offer on a weekly basis. And also tomorrow afternoon, I'll be at the fair between 5 and 7 o'clock at the Republican Party, Twin Falls County Republican Party booth at the Twin Falls County Fair. You're up next. You're on the air. We've got a couple of minutes to go.
Republican Party.
Good morning. Go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, don't listen on the radio. Listen on the phone. There's a delay.
Yeah, well, I just
Go ahead.
say it's too late.
Go ahead. There's time. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I was just wondering how all these people like Kaepernick and Obama think they're such victims, and they're so much better off than the rest of us that it's just unbelievable that they would complain.
Yeah, Obama gets waited on and he will for the rest of his life. Someone will be waiting on the guy. I'm just. Thanks for the call. I'm just amazed. And Kaepernick didn't get the check in one lump sum, but a $114 million contract was through some incentives and spread out over several years. He's still making a darn sight better money than the rest of us are. He would be considered to be the 1% that Lefty complains about all the time. And yet here he goes. One more time. Now he's going to go out and insult the military in a Navy town on military night by sitting through the national anthem. And by this time next week, he'll be searching for a job. No other National Football League team, I think because of the controversy now, is likely to pick him up. No one wanted him anyway while his team was trying to get rid of him during the course of the offseason. So he'll be, by this time within a month, he'll be playing somewhere in the Canadian Football League, and we'll never hear about Colin Kaepernick again. And that'll be very fitting. God willing, if the creek don't rise, I'm back tomorrow, as I say, between 8 and 10 o'clock right here on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. The Rush Limbaugh program is up next. I have to say program because Buck Sexton caught me by surprise while he was hosting the show. Hey, quick little bit of trivia here. Buck Sexton spoke at the Idaho Republican Party convention in June in Nampa, and his guest on the air yesterday that I heard him interviewing, Kimberly Strassel, the author and writer for the Wall Street Journal, she also spoke at that very same convention. They were both here right on the radio yesterday in Twin Falls. That's coming up, as I say, in just a couple of minutes. Sean Hannity following the news from Fox at 1 o'clock, Glenn Beck at 4 o'clock this afternoon, and Dave Ramsey tonight at 7 o'clock.